Yes, we can hear you, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Sorry, I can't be with you in person today.
But now I call everyone as Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
$300. Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, I know, they've been talking about it.
Probably more than that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
So they can. You've seen the new one, they have a one.
My son. They're trying to have something.
I hope so.
Sorry, I misunderstood. The document I sent you is for
Almost a little more
Mark
conservative.
and Jerry and I, not for, it's not related to
Not related to that,
the, no.
but I am to present this though. right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I don't really have anything to do with it. I don't know anything about it.
you don't?
This was our board, so I saw
Okay.
it, I put it together, but I did not.
All right, understood.
Michigan Independent College.
I can't believe that, well, maybe, but Jerry and Mark, let's just give it a minute or two here. Because we're not talking about it.
Happy birthday, though.
Thanks.
Oh, I know. What is this? I know what it is. I know what it is.
Good morning. We'll get started on this October 13th, 2021 meeting of the Downtown Development Authority of the City of Adrian. I want to welcome everyone. I think we should read the mission statement again. The Adrian Downtown Development Authority is a group of passionate volunteers dedicated to enhancing, preserving, and promoting our rich history and vibrant arts and culture through meaningful partnerships with residents, business owners, and stakeholders in downtown Adrian. So welcome, everyone. Meredith, roll call you've already done. So we may have a few people come in a little later. So in front of you, you have the agenda. So this is the time if you want to add or adjust. And Greg, there's one right here if you need one. Thank you. There. All right. Anything you want to add to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. There's been a motion by Meredith. Is there support? There's support. So is there any further discussion? Oh, there's more. All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Also in front of you, you have the minutes from our September 8th meeting. Meredith, thank you for those details. Any corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. There's a motion. Is there support?
Support.
There's support. Any further discussion? I think Margaret was, yeah. Wow. Margaret. Yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Let the record reflect the minutes are accepted by unanimous choice. So we'll move into committee reports and get started with promotion. I will call on Greg at some point. I don't know if I have it on the agenda just to give an update.
I
So
thought I was in the clear.
yeah, you're not getting out of it. So Michelle, just a little bit about First Fridays and Halloween and the Comstock Christmas River Walk.
Sure. So the next First Friday we have coming up is Give Thanks, and businesses will be partnering with the Adrian Public Schools on their turkey drive. So they'll have maple leaves that people can purchase for $1, or however much they want to donate. And then those will be posted, you sign your name, post it up. And then those donations will all be given to the school to go toward the turkey drive. We won't be having a car show or closing the streets now that the weather has changed, but we will still have all the same activities that we normally do. We still will have live music inside a lot of the restaurants and bars. Next Thursday is Ladies' Night. So we usually do that in the spring and the fall, and we have quite a few businesses participating in that. So we should have a good event there. Halloween trick-or-treating downtown is scheduled for Saturday, October 30th from 4:30 to 6:30. I have 11 businesses participating so far, but they have until Friday to let me know. So I expect we'll get more. The YMCA is coming down to do some activities. I believe we have a DJ. The mayor's working on that. We plan to have a DJ, and then we also have a bounce house. TNL Rental is giving that to us at a really good rate. And then we'll have, the city's gonna have trick or treating, or hand out candy. I believe APD is also going to be handing out candy. And we will show movies here in the chambers at 6:30 p.m. We'll have a Halloween movie and free popcorn and water for the kids if they want to come in. So that's kind of where we're at with that right now, but we're still working on it. And then Comstock Christmas Riverwalk, that's well underway. We are also planning to do a holiday open house that Saturday and have Santa at the gazebo in the park, weather permitting, to do pictures. And I think Mark Murray is working on a few things there too at the Armory, maybe to work in conjunction with that. So we'll have more on that next time.
Awesome. Great work. First Fridays are a big thing. We need to celebrate that. It's awesome. And Halloween, just don't underestimate it. Lisa and I bought glow sticks a number of years ago. We still have plenty of them. So if you want a glow stick for your wrist or a necklace, or you want some popcorn, come by my place, because that's where we'll be. And so I encourage any downtown business owners. It was the pouring rain and freezing last time, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people down here. So don't underestimate Halloween. Really cool stuff. Speaking of great things, Dave Thomas, give us a little recap of that Phoenix Theory Artalicious cool thing.
Well, from what I remember, it was one heck of an event. But the band was very great. I couldn't tell you how many people we had down there, but there was a whole bunch. I just want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, obviously, and to Don and his group at Artalicious for helping us tag in on this event. I thought Artalicious as a whole was fantastic as well. A lot of great people, a lot of great artists. I've seen a lot of purchasing going on as well, a lot of art being bought. Food vendors down there, once we got them there, did extremely, extremely well as also. But from a budget standpoint, from a finance standpoint, our budget was $10,000. We raised $7,000, and actually our expenses ended up being exactly $7,000 as well. So it ended up being a complete wash for us. There was an increase from the sound doctor, and I'm still trying to work on that invoice for Nathan. His charge was $22.50 because he needed to bring in his PA system, and we were unaware of that at the time of the bid. So, but I look at it when it comes to the Main Street program, money in, money out. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Cash flow nicely. Well, not really cash flow this time, but it was still a great event for all of our downtown businesses. The Moose Lodge record sales, Club 109 record sales. Other ones I'm not too sure about, but I'm sure they had a great evening. I've seen Dara cups all over. So it was.
I hope not the next day on the ground.
No. So, but no, great event, and look forward to trying to do something like that again soon.
I'll argue that it's not a wash. It pays in dividends, and it pays to our restaurants. It's a great activity for the downtown and something to really build on for next year. We know we need a signature event, but it's already there. We just need to amplify it and elevate it and continue to work towards that. So great work, David. Thank you.
Yep.
And same to you, Don. Thank you. All right, we've had an email, I just gave it to you this morning, that came from the board of Visit Lenawee, and it's from Justin. It says, as of this month, our organization executive board directors have met, and we believe now is the time to begin discussions on Visit Lenawee being compensated for professional services being provided to DDA since Emily's addition to DDA board. As the DDA moves closer to finding their executive director, it's been part of our ongoing discussion that these services would not always be free. As other vendors are stepping up to take unpaid professional service offerings for the DDA, it now seems it's time for Visit Lenawee to have those discussions as well. Attached is a managed social proposal that has been developed with input from Emily based on her involvement. Please note that this is for managed social only at this time. Anything outside the proposed is outside the scope and will need to be looked at further. Please do not hesitate to contact me with questions. And in your packets, I had attached a invoice, which I'm trying to put my fingers on right now.
$250 or 2.5 hours per month.
Moving forward. So was it,
That's $250 per week for 2.5 hours per week.
I think it was a month. I'm sorry. I
I
don't-
thought it was $250 a month. Or 2.5 hours per week. So,
Yeah.
10 hours per month.
There's been a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to just mention that I think we do need to pay for that service. At some point, we're gonna have a director coming on, and we could ascertain that person's level of skills to do it or not. So this is not a long-term commitment, it's a month-to-month arrangement. When I read it, it sounds like a great deal for us to do that.
Is there support?
Support.
There's support from Margaret.
Mark,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I don't have a copy of that invoice. And is it weekly or monthly?
It is monthly for 250. Did we just verify that? Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I had it in the email attachment. Of course, I didn't bring copies.
So it's 2.5 hours per week. Total monthly billable is $250.
Yeah,
So 10 hours a month.
understand. Thank you.
I think it's also important that the DDA coordinates with the city, Michelle's been doing a lot of marketing for, us, so I know you're already doing that. I think that's a really important partnership that between what we're doing and what Michelle's been doing with the city, to keep that very tight.
And then I think we continue down the work of website development. City has one that they have attached for the DDA. With our business directory, we were starting to build our own and trying to develop those. So I think we need clarity on that and start working in that direction as well. So great, there's been a motion and there's been support. Is there any further discussion?
Well, from a marketing industry myself, looking at the proposal and everything that's in it there, I think that we actually have a prime opportunity right now as a board to decide what we want to do for marketing. And there's a lot of moving pieces to it. And Emily has been doing great work in terms of providing us with reports and everything like that. She's no longer interested in volunteering that time on the DDA to provide that. That's totally understandable. I know it's a lot of work that goes into that. What I personally would prefer to see is that we get a marketing committee together to actually decide what we want rather than just accepting an outside proposal that's been offered to us. So that way we can approach Visit Lenawee or approach marketing companies with, here's what we would like to accomplish rather than just accepting something that's been offered.
Further discussion.
I'll just say this is not a personal, this came from our executive board and our executive director. So this had nothing to do with me. I didn't even make this proposal. He asked me for my input, but this was not like a personal choice.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Brad.
Yeah, I just like to chime in from a financial aspect. $250 doesn't seem like a significant amount of money, but it's 5% of our annual free cash flow. Because we have around $45,000 of unmarked money annually. So, if we're spending $3,000 annually on this, then it's a significant amount of our budget. Just wanted to let everybody remember that we have yet to be raising significant funds yet. I believe a Main Street director will do that, hopefully, or at least help for that. But if we, I know that Main Street wants to see working boards, and so, you know, I don't think we should all be in, I'm not saying it's you at all, Emily, you know what I mean? But I don't want to see us all invoicing for the work that we're doing outside of this board.
I agree with that. And I wonder if it makes sense to find a stopgap measure until we have hired a Main Streets director. Should that director be part of the larger marketing conversation? And does that mean either we accept this proposal month to month until we've hired, or we push back a little and say we need some time to develop this and hire before we can make a decision?
I can withdraw my motion, because I think between Jake and Brad, the idea that by next year, 2022 year, our hope is moving into Main Street, that we have budget items for each one of these active committees. So we've got the next 6 weeks or so to really be working on that. We have an agenda items to share later on. We'll speak briefly to that.
Yeah.
What we've been doing this stuff. But I can withdraw that if that's the committee's preference.
Of the DDAs.
I'm not resistant to you know, approving ongoing at this point. I just wanted to let everybody remember that we don't have a lot of money. And, you know, it should always be a goal to be cash flow positive at the end of the year. And, you know, every little chunk that we nibble will definitely affect that. So
How about me amending the motion to say 250 through year end?
I would agree to that.
Okay, so amended.
Support as amended.
All right.
I
For-
would also, if I may add, that this needs to be, thank you, that this needs to be continued on the agenda so that we continue discussions, and this be treated really as a heads up to us that we need this discussion because we need this position. And we need Emily and the services that she provides for us. And that whether we incorporate that into our everyday budget item and we make it a priority so that her services are not lost because we need those services.
I would also say it's, you know, again, I think whoever we hire as a director should be part of that conversation. And maybe that person is a natural with social media and absorbs that piece of it themselves, and or helps us decide how to move forward, whether we pay for it, have a committee of volunteers that do it, or some other solution. I don't think we know what that solution is yet.
I would also, just for clarification, like to support what Margaret said too, and that these, what's been done is absolutely essential to what we've been accomplishing so far in terms of social media support. And I don't want it to seem like I'm denigrating what has been done. Just think that if we're entering into more of a long-term paid relationship, we should have the opportunity to focus on strategically what we want to accomplish with that relationship.
So as you can see, what's happening here is that as we hired Drake for the video and we're utilizing different services from another organization we're partnering with, it's starting to get where we need to be getting some clarity there because it gets into the conflict of interest and it gets into a number of areas that make us all uncomfortable. We can feel it. So that's fully understandable. So I think it's a good middle ground to go for 3 months here, or October, November, December, get that person hired as a Main Street director, get them involved in the marketing committee and talk about this on a much grander scale. So we have to be careful, as we said. And again, Emily, it's nothing to do with your great work you've been doing. I just want to make sure that you know that we appreciate it. And if there is any further discussion. All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Thank you for that discussion. Appreciate it greatly. We'll move on to the Finance Committee. Brad.
Should have all the most recent reports ending September. I don't have anything significant to report other than the fact that we paid out the invoices for Phoenix Theory, which again, I think we paid them all out except for Sound Doctor, I believe. So
Sound Doctor.
yeah.
He has been paid, but just.
Oh,
partially.
okay. Oh, partially.
But
Okay.
he's just still
Yep.
waiting on the invoice
Okay.
from him.
Yep. Other than that, I don't really have anything significant to report.
Excellent.
For you. Regarding our transition to Main Street, they're pretty adamant about us having a budget, that, you know, a line item budget. Doesn't have to be accurate or perfect, but going into next year, I was wondering how you would see the process from your perspective in allocating the way that we spend money into some line items that we could look at maybe November, discuss and approve December for January. Is that something that might be able to-
Yeah, so as part of the Main Street application, we put together a 5-year budget moving forward with each of the, 4 major sections and individual line items for those things. So, we'll probably be during the next budgeting, for the following fiscal year, we're starting to now, but we're hopefully more aligned towards that Main Street budget so that we're following our own plan.
Right.
So,
I think it'd be great if the board could have access to that. If we run
sure.
Before we approve that, so we.
Yeah.
We're all neophytes in this. And
Yep.
It'd be nice to have some time for you to educate us, help us understand.
Yeah.
what it looks.
I'm hoping that, by the time we get to the point where we're approving the following fiscal year budget, that we have a director.
Right.
And they can be part of that conversation. And we really need to completely restructure all of our account lines here to follow the Main Street budget. So,
Is our fiscal year lined up with the cities? It is. So we're July 1st, right? Adoption.
yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, we usually have to have submissions for the budgets in by like end of February.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Excellent. So we'll get that out to you. We'll start kicking around. We got a little time, but not really. Because we'll probably be working that budget halfway in, right? We'll be already on top of it, so. And in that budget, we were asked to correct a few things like increase amounts for training, PTO time for, they were like, are you gonna not let this person have vacation? And so they were real clear with us to adjust some things, and we did. And so we'll get that all out to you. Brad, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report as presented.
So moved, Lally.
Second, David, Thomas.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the same. Thank you. All right, so the communication continues for our fundraising plan. And those, we have received a number of documents of support, volunteers, and a number of people that said they would donate, which is, you don't see that very often when they check that box, which we do. And we've compiled that list, and Ashley's been helping with me on that list. Thank you all for who brought it. We were able to show a stack about like that to the Main Street presentation, which was our hope. And there was some great donations that came in, especially as I get to tell the story about Stephanie Boyce Hickman. We asked her to do one of the interviews, and Drake did, and he went and found her and sat down. But before she presented her interview, she did some research. And she had been committed at $5,000. By the time she was done researching and did the interview, she called me back and said, let's make that 10. So, I put that illustration on the board is we all need to continue to educate ourselves about the Main Street approach, because it does sell well. It does really sell when you know what when you dig in and look at it. And I intend to continue to sit down with our stakeholders. But we need to continue to think about that thought of who's going to get $50, who's going to give 100, getting a broad-based support on it. So I don't have anything specific today, but you'll see correspondence from me working certain names, but that's in motion and needs to be in motion all the time. So just with that said, we'll continue those efforts. And again, the Hickman family has been generous to us, and they as you know, have a great focus on our downtown as well. So great stuff. Land acquisition. This one I'm going to take from Mark. I went and attended a land bank meeting. And I don't know if you guys met Mark, but you can explain after this. But They sat down and they're really only asking one thing on the Gene Christopher property. What are you gonna do with it? And we've tried to meet a few times. Did you guys get a chance to meet? All right, excellent.
Dave, you want to say something about our meeting? Brad? I'll say something first, you guys fill in. So we have an agenda item, we're trying to figure out a plan to present to the DDA board as a whole. The questions that we have to answer, what is the vision for this project? What will the DDA be looking at in terms of what this thing does for the community? We need to have an answer. Is it more like a stage thing? Is it more like a picnic or children's area? We have to decide how we're going to use the thing. Capital investment in order to purchase and develop the property. How much is it going to cost to make this vision come to reality? An operating budget for the property. Once we have the property up and running, how do we maintain it? What kind of a budget is this group willing to put in? DDA responsibilities of the committee who's actually going to be responsible. So if we're going to operate that in some way, shape, or form, some of us on this committee will have responsibilities that are ongoing with regard to that property to inspect, check, or oversee it. We also have to decide the relationship with the city. What are we going to do versus what they may be willing to do? And in that regard, we were hoping from this group to have permission to engage the city formally on a discussion about that kind of a partnership on there, because we can't do it alone. And I don't think the city wants responsibility for another park. So we would need to negotiate in good faith a way that we could look together at how to develop this property for the best use of the community. Gentlemen, add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, we're still in very much preliminary. We don't even want to bring anything to the board unless we know that it's somewhat fiscally responsible or possible to do something like that. I think that we're basically just in exploratory stages at this point, and I think that's about all that we really have to report at this point, other than the fact that, you know, we would at least like to discuss with the city the potential for some sort of partnership.
I don't think that needs a motion. Is anybody against them having communication with the city regarding a partnership as it relates to the Gene Christopher property? Now, this is, to my opinion, when I look at it, is it just a signature Main Street project, the kind of thing that you see when you go and investigate Main Street and what they've done. They create these place-making spots, if you will, and they create work plans for us. So I'd love to have this teed up right when we have the director move in and us all, you know, attack this together, because it really has a lot of visibility. It has the room for it, and whether that's, you know, we've heard beer garden to food trucks to, and we don't want to bring that up, sorry, oops, and whatever the case may be.
And as we move forward as we continue to investigate this project, obviously the capital investment is the biggest piece on this.
Yeah.
You know, and what the vision of the scope of the project will be. Will it be a $50,000 project? Or is it going to be a $250,000 project?
Right.
You know, because that's what we're looking at this time. And if it's something that we can even take on moving forward. I mean, if we are concerned about some of our expenses that we have already, you know, capital investment is going to be pretty critical for us to get this project moving forward. And having that director in place to help with that fundraising aspect.
Yeah, because I can see that if you had to, enclose it with fence or wall or something, right there's a monster expense right off the bat.
Mhm.
That's the commitment.
Well, and you're going to not want, what we're looking at theoretically is minimal maintenance.
Right.
Minimal maintenance. And so, you know, no grass, you know, green space would be more working with the decorations committee of when it comes to decor and things of that nature. So, I mean, minimal maintenance as possible, you know, a monthly power washing, you know, because everything will have to be concrete. So, I mean, it could be something that we can take on or something that we may not.
we'd love to have one or more additional members on the committee, particularly either Greg or Angie, who would, kind of meet and give us feedback from the city's perspective. But if anybody else wants to be on the group, we have an agenda from our last meeting I could hand out and love to have you jump on board.
I think it's a very impactful project, so I encourage and challenge any one of us to be a part of that discussion. And it may not just be committee levels, but send emails, send visuals. If you're out there visiting other cities and you see something that's really cool, that seemed reasonable, that didn't cost too much, share ideas. This is a great opportunity for us to take that canvas and make something out of it. So I appreciate your hard work on that. Mark, you have more to say on that?
One more thing, we'd like to have that committee title reflect whatever Main Street wants us to have, instead of saying it as a property purchase. The Main Street has a name for that. It's a real estate report or something. That could be a sub item on that. As we're moving ahead, we're looking at trying to get as many of those headers on our agenda look like Main Street. So if that said real estate report, eventually we'll be reporting on the total amount of properties in our area and the developed properties versus the undeveloped and how many have gotten developed in the last time. So I think that would be a good area for that to be reported in.
Excellent. So make adjustments to the agenda and just really broaden it than just that one item. And of course, the city did some great work in the application process. I need to get all that out to you. They asked us for building inventory in detail, and Greg and Michelle did some tremendous work. And what was funny was I was like, it doesn't have to be all that accurate. We just need to get this into the application, but they pushed forward and it's pretty accurate now. So we've got some things to work with and to reference in that area. So appreciate that. Anybody wants to be a part of the real estate committee? You'll see discussion later about committee development and where we're going with that at this time. Thank you. And in that light, one of the areas that you see on the select level is them educating us on volunteer recruitment and retention. One of the things that I think I have weakness as this is to really inventory those people, identify those people, recognize them, and to create a situation where we can put them to work because we have great communication and relationships with them. So I think each one of us, when we think of Artelicious and all the people that commit to that, how do we do that? And so I don't know, we really have to appoint a committee today, but a big part of Main Street is volunteer recruitment and retention. So I just want to bring that to the front of mind. And anyone that feels comfortable with that, because I just think of things like, there's all these students at Sienna or Adrian, and they would act, because they do when Jim Behrman asked them to go help them put all those Christmas trees up. So, they would act if we had a better ask, we had a better connection point, a better organization as it relates to that. So that is something when the director comes aboard too, we'll be pushing hard to keep as a forefront. Go ahead.
One thing I'd really like to see with that is, with our advisory members, with, the Michael Orlando from Siena Heights and, and Michael from Adrian College, like I'd really like to see those be those connection points and seeing that happen through them. I feel that's a vital and crucial part of them. Honestly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And again, there's people that have come down here, and when we were sitting and we all are pressed for time, but we're sitting at the table, the information table. And when you ask me, would you like to volunteer? They say yes. And then what do you want them to do? You know what I mean? So we need to get that structured and for every event so that we can call upon them when needed. So there's a lot of citizens that are in that group too, not just students, but you can see there's a lot of potential there. Drake is so detailed when it comes to this type of thing.
I'm getting unsolicited texts from the general public.
Oh, okay, got it.
If you bring it just in front of you so we can hear when you turn this way also.
Understood. Any other discussion on that? All right. Beautification Branding Committee, Jerry, I see you on the screen there. Pots, decorations.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to the group that put up the fall decor. I was not able to be there, but Mary Murray, Mark Murray, Mary Roberts, Chris Schmidt really led a great team of people. So thank you all very much for filling in and helping make the downtown look nice. We are in conversation now about the holiday decor, working with Matt from the city of Adrian on when light poles will start to come down. As probably many of you know, the light poles with the garland and the wreaths have been a big part of our holiday decor. But with the changes to the light poles, we're trying to make a plan to make sure we don't put things up that will need to come back down or that might get damaged in that process. So it's an ongoing conversation. So more to come on that as the city gets a little bit more clarification on the light pole project. Still looking for some support on the parklet project. So hoping when I'm back in action tomorrow, my quarantine ends today, yay. So some of those things will start to get a little bit more focused attention when I'm up and running and in person.
Excellent. So I want to reiterate what she said about parklets, happenstance with COVID and then the restarting of Crossville and a number of things, and of course, lumber prices to everything else, just like perfect little storm on Jerry. And I feel bad, because we're sort of in a limbo state, but there were some contributors to this and commitments that came from, from the Copper House to Chandler's to Mammoth. That made commitments, and I think we line item the budget and allocated some funds towards this as well. So whether that means we go out and try to get a contractor in this environment to help us finish this off, or if you know somebody that's a handy person that could handle finishing this off, and Jerry, correct me if I'm not asking correctly, but let's get some help to the situation. Let's get some parklets as soon as possible. We got one that's in process, right, Jerry?
Yeah, the design is complete for both of them. So we're just looking for some construction help.
So Jerry, you said that you already have a paint by the numbers plan for putting them together. It's just a matter of getting materials and cutting them up and screwing them together, right?
I wouldn't call it a paint by numbers. Our tech director has a design. So it would take a little bit more than like your average crafter to do them, but somebody who's skilled with table saws and that kind of thing would be an appropriate kind of skill level.
Well, I'm happy to bring some power tools down, and we can, if we can get a couple extra helpers to just help put it together, I'm sure we could accomplish that. One question that I would have in conjunction with lumber prices and just the timing of it right now is, Jerry, do you think that we still have a decent run downtown to get some use out of the parklets before they have to be put up for the season? Or is this something that maybe we should revisit in the spring?
It probably depends entirely on how quickly we can get people together. So it might make sense to actually build them on our stage over the holiday season or something like that, given we're at the middle point of October. So then we would just forego this fall and get them built and ready to go in place early in the spring.
I would probably agree with that.
Good plan.
Yeah, and we have building space, obviously.
Excellent. All right, thank you all for that. Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate it. And thanks to all those that did the fall decorations. Again, that's another case where volunteers and organizing volunteers is very important. And we appreciate those that did. Kevin, anything on public art? I know it's all in motion, but.
Yep, sculptures are still where we put them.
Right.
So, no update there. I do want to bring up, we should probably, maybe at the January meeting, begin discussions about the next round.
Right.
So that we're not, kind of going into it half-baked. Like we did last year, we kind of got thrown into it right in the middle, so.
Understood. I think that is important. I think I put it on there just so we can continue to keep the planning process and intact, so.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. And then you just heard a little bit, is there any update, Greg? I can give you a chance right here on the downtown street lamps and trees and demonstration project. I put all that in there.
Well, I missed our last progress meeting with Johnson Controls because I had another meeting to go to, but I see John Ingraham is on the call, so maybe he can help us with that if he's listening. John, are you there?
I am. What's the question?
Do you know what the current schedule for the downtown streetlights, the start of the install is?
I don't. I know the manufacturer has been shifting back the delivery dates, and they're having issues with some of the electronics as everyone is on circuit boards and such. But that's something that we're working to get pinned down as soon as possible.
Okay,
right.
so no, I don't.
Understood. And if I'm not mistaken, all the trees that were planned to be removed, the pears, the crab apples, have all been replaced with maples. Do we have any extra boxes that still need to be filled?
Yeah, quite a few.
Oh, okay.
We have 20, or I'm sorry, 10 reserved still this fall, just waiting for the ground to get firm enough that we can get them out of the ground and move them down. And then 20 more reserved for the spring.
Excellent. And then give us a little insight on the demonstration project I heard you mention the other day.
Yeah, what we've asked, so we went to see Jason Preston and asked him to conceptualize like a faux storefront for the two buildings that we own on South Main by Maiden Lane there. You know, where the perception of the person on the street would be that you're, you know, I mean, it won't really fool the eye, but a little bit fool the eye that you're looking into a store. And so he came up with a concept for the one building to be, I think it was going to be a bakery and the other one a shoe store. And he's working on, you know, a window covering for the first floor that will accomplish that. And the idea being that, you know, we would like in the future to have an ordinance that applies to vacant downtown buildings so that you're required to have some similar window treatment such that you're not looking in the building at a bunch of pigeon crap or, you know, tennis shoes or whatever it is that might detract from your experience when you're downtown.
Excellent.
Greg, I think it would be nice if we use that as a motivator to fill those buildings with the description on the front. So we should say, we're going to get a shoe store and a bakery downtown. You know?
That's a worthy goal. There might be a little bit of work needed before we could get to that point.
Any other items that the city wants?
I'll point out a couple things that are going on right now. We have a Parks and Rec survey out. And I asked Michelle to put the link in the chat, but for those of you who are here in person, if you just go to the website, it's pretty obvious where it is. And invite you to participate in that. It's going to be up for how much longer, Michelle? Okay. That's in support of a Parks and Rec master plan that we're working on as we're trying to hire our Parks and Rec director. I have 3 interviews for that position this afternoon. So we hope those are second round interviews. So we hope we're moving right along with that. And downtown trash is something to start thinking about. Our contracts, both for residential and downtown trash, are up at the end of our fiscal year. So at the end of next June. And we're beginning discussions about what that would look like in terms of the services that we want to have both in the neighborhoods and downtown, and functionally how that is going to work going forward. Will include really a well-reasoned theory for how those expenses are spread and billed, which we haven't really had in the past. So any thoughts on that? We're here to hear them whenever they occur to you.
So I just want to reiterate on something from experience as a commissioner. One of the things that you bring up when you bring up trash, you bring up a hot subject, a really hot subject, and it comes about equity and who's paying their fair share. And it can get as complicated as, you have 5 children and you guys have a lot of trash and I'm retired and I don't have any trash. It's not fair. And, why do you allocate this so evenly? And you can imagine how it gets. So instead of taking that topic up today, I will be encouraging a few of us to get together and talk about the complexity of this situation. And it is complex. I do not want to, and it will affect the downtown. So we got a little time, but not much to start talking about it in detail. Greg, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's been an idea that's been, and I don't know if I brought it up in a previous meeting, but it is something to discuss. There's an idea of incentivizing maybe the power washing of buildings in downtown. Some of the buildings, even if you look just across the street, I just now looked at that, if it had a little power wash action to it. And there's a few others in downtown that could get cleaned up, but maybe some of our downtown business owners don't want to put $550 or $750 into it. And the discussion is just, do we want to, as a board, provide any incentives for something of that nature? But I did want to bring that up as a subject.
Mr. Chair, I think if we developed a fund, a community fund outside of our normal operating budget as a DDA, for instance, if we had some request in the community at Christmas or sometime to donate to upgrade the downtown, if we had a fund that was donated separate from our normal operating budget, I would support that. I'm not sure, as our treasurer indicated, that our relatively lean operating budget could afford to pick up a whole bunch of that.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we'll move forward. And I put signage on here because there is, Buzz Cafe did a perfect example of a sign that moves out, forward. And there's a lot of demand, or a lot of, I think, ideas from all of us that would like to see more of that, because our gentleman next door that bought the building next to me, Mike Lear, if you haven't met him, what a pleasant individual he is, and very committed. He's coming in and making a sizable investment, and he was showing me what he wants to see on the front of his building, and it is really cool. But again, it is one of our responsibilities to give that final approval on signage. But as we move forward in committee and beautification, maybe we'll be a little more proactive about what we show these downtown businesses, about not what we'd like to see, but what's looking good in the other ones. And maybe if we get some continuity, it would have some rhyme and reason the way it looks. You've seen it in other cities where you see some sort of repeating look that really catches everybody's eye. So no action there. So we'll move to Main Street select level. So we're continuing with our interviews. We had a couple interviews last week that were really, really good. We still have it out there. There's a number of applications that I've sent to the interview committee. So I'll be circling back with you within the next 24 hours to see who else we're going to interview. We do have quite a stack of different individuals that are, that want to be a part of the position. So just letting you know that we're still in motion, and we'll be coming back to this body, hopefully by next meeting, hopefully with a recommendation. Okay. The select level application was in on time, and I want to thank the application committee. There was a lot of hard work that was done, and I have to give credit to Ashley too. She had to put up with the stresses of it all as well, and that's me. She had to deal with. And then, of course, we had the recap on the October 5th meeting. And I got to tell you, 2019, I went up to Lansing, as I'd mentioned, with 4 of us, or 5 of us in total. And I was in front of this big table with about 25 different individuals, all the way from MEDC down to all the different Main Street organizations, mayors and everything. And they beat us up. They beat us up hard. Brad was there. We experienced it. This time we open up and they ask us, it's time for committee. We all show up on Zoom, and they just watched the video, which was outstanding. And they start to ask us questions, and they run out of questions in 15 minutes. It was really, they didn't even have a hard question for us. They were softballs. And so then they get to just take a discussion for the next 15 minutes and thank you, love you, bye. I expect to have a decision here mid-October. So we're here 13th. So next week, maybe, guys, we'll hear something and I'll let everybody know when and if we do, but I'm very confident. Hopefully I won't get, knocked down on that. But I'm very confident that we did very well and presented very well to the group. Moving on, Advantage Visuals. Inside you have a invoice. Gosh, I hope everybody got that because I didn't bring all my details. But if I remember correctly, it was in our email.
It was in the packet.
It was in the packet.
Yeah, it was for $7,500.
Yes.
It was discounted, I think 20 something, 2,000 or something, down to 7,500.
And remember, that was a motion and accepted to allocate $7,500 to this project. So I just want to go ahead and confirm that we will be paying that invoice without any objection. Excellent. Move forward on that. Another thing that Drake did when he was running is I needed those volunteer t-shirts and I needed them fast. And of course, he called Todd Harder and Red Paint, and then he paid for it himself. So if I could get approval here to have him reimbursed for $282 for our volunteer t-shirts.
Support.
There's motion. Support. You got those two. All right. Any further discussion?
How do we get a t-shirt?
So, yeah, please. Sorry. Spreading those out.
Yeah, the t-shirts were in Dusty's office and then I liberated them when he was on vacation so I could continue distribution. So that means they're now in my office.
Okay.
If anybody else would like to host a bundle of t-shirts for 2 weeks, we have an adoption program, just let me know. Then you too can take part of the t-shirt distribution process here, so.
Excellent. Yes, we'll get you t-shirts as soon as possible on that. And again, it was part of the visual that we wanted to express to Main Street, and I think it did well. Yeah, need a motion to pay the reimburse this invoice for Red.
Oh, I thought we
do it.
did that.
We just did. We said yes. All right. So all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Sorry. It's going so well there and smooth. All right, there's been a discussion. I think this is an important discussion. I want to bring it forward is that as we move into Main Street, there's been no hiding the fact that each of us as board members, we're going to become very active. And that doesn't mean that we haven't been, but it does mean that we're going to continue that process of active involvement as a board. It was clear in the Main Street process when they're asking us what the position of Main Street looks like for us. And it really was what they wanted to hear from us was that they'd be treated like a department head with the city, not necessarily a department head, but to have that close relationship with the city, like we have been working on and all the great things that the city and us and we have done as a partnership. And that liaison position would be that, but we're not going to get a director and then lay everything on them. We're not going to take it and say, hey, now you're in charge of Artilicious and all this, and now you're in charge of taking care of this and that. We still have to remain very, very active in our responsibilities. So with that said, a group of us got together, we're talking about some ideas and the like, and maybe just hand this over to that group who's talking about a survey as it relates to our board and what involvement you'd like to have, where you feel your best foot forward would come as far as your skills. So either Mark or Jerry, do you make some comment to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do want to thank you, Mayor Angie, Emily, Drake, Greg, Jerry, and several other committee members came together. As we're working on our transition from DDA to Main Street, there are a number of things, as our chair has indicated, that we're going to have to kind of transition to from what we've had to whatever's next. And so we decided to have an informal group of us come together and say, well, what's that going to look like? When's it going to happen? And how's it going to happen? And so I don't know, we've decided to put a name on it of the Priorities and Engagement Committee, but whatever the Main Street group wants to call it, we need to have several committees that are formed that don't exist now. So that was one of the discussions as we move from the system that we've used to the system that Main Street is going to require of us. They're asking us to have agenda items and priorities that we're dealing with as a Main Street that we have not dealt with as a DDA. So there's always confusion when we go from what was to what will be. And so I'm asking all of us to accept a certain amount of confusion in the next number of months as we transition to this new thing. So the agenda might look different, committees might look different, and that's what Main Street expects of us. So we don't have to do everything they want, but they have a template or pro forma of how their select groups work, and we need to move into that. So if there are questions about that, I think every meeting, Mr. Chair, we may want to have that as a transition questions or issues, because there should be a lot of questions as well. We used to do it this way, and now we're talking about this. What does that mean? Why are we doing that? And there'll be some subcommittees working on this stuff, but I think it's important for our full board once a month to be made aware of whatever these changes might be. So with that, I'd like to have Jerry and or Emily check in here and report on what we discussed at our last meeting yesterday.
So our intention is to send out a survey. We needed a little bit more time to feel like we were confident in developing a thoughtful, well put together survey. So within the next 2 to 3, preferably 2 weeks, we'll be sending out a survey that we will present at the November meeting. That survey will just be for the board members, but we would like to be able to put together a list of DDA priorities. So you'll have an opportunity to prioritize some goals or some agenda action items that you'd like to see happen. This is in addition to the larger vision that we need to all be a part of. So this is not in lieu of that, but this is to go with that. That bigger visioning session will happen once we acquire the Main Street resources. But we feel that at this time, it would sort of be a waste of resources to do that without Main Street's help. We feel that we would get more of a benefit once we kind of are patient and wait for Main Street. But in the meantime, we can be prioritizing our agenda and some action items that we might feel like we could get done in the meantime. So we talked about taking those priorities that we all as a group have agreed on, and then they'll be like, you can rank priorities, but you can also add priorities so that it's a exhaustive list of everyone's agendas, everyone's commitments, what everyone is willing to participate in, and where you're willing to place your talents.
Jerry, do you want to comment?
I would just add that our timing on this is we hope to have a survey out to the DDA Board of Directors in the next 2 weeks, so that you'd have about a week to complete that, get it back to our small group so that we can report back to the larger group here at our next meeting. So good work, Mark and Emily.
So just to go forward with that, when you think of promotion, organization, economic vitality, and design, you think about our beautification and branding committee. So that's not targeted properly, because branding would be in promotion and beautification would be in design. So I think we've all, as we self-reflect on that, really putting the right committees together that are identified, very targeted, and that we have commitments from each of you. And then Main Street thinks about it even bigger than that. You know, they wanted to see in the application the people that said they'd be a part of the Main Street group. So Main Street doesn't mean just DDA board. Main Street means that we'd have this room filled with people who all have the same passion and have been part of these committees. So our committees can't be limited to just us, or we will not be effective. So back to that volunteer recruitment, development, getting people to visualize what Main Street means. As I've read the select level, that is something they assist with. They will be a part of it, but we can not slow down. We still have lots of things we can pull off in the meantime as we start to become a Main Street. And I think that's what all of us were trying to say, is there's some low hanging fruit that we're still after. and we're still trying to have wins, and that does really allow us to go to these volunteers and to these stakeholders and say we are very effective, and we're going to get even more effective as we move forward. So thank you for that work, and we'll look forward to the survey. All right. I'm going to insert Lenawee now and have Jim talk about some EDA grant and maybe a few other things.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I do that, I'd just like to give you a brief synopsis here of what happened with the earmark and the Kiwanis Trail. I think that we all need to be aware of the people that assisted with that. We have some local community members that did very well in Lenawee County for a number of years, came back to us at the first of the year and said, we need a lobbyist to bring more money to Lenawee County with this money that's going through the state and the federal government right now. And we need to work diligently on that. And so they funded GCIS through Lenawee Now to lobby for Lenawee County for more money. With that, some of those local community members came together with us in GCIS and your chairman, Dusty Steele, to work on this project. And as you know, we got a $3.5 million earmark to go underneath M52 to connect the Kiwanis Trail to the east side. And the people, we're very thankful because, first of all, Speaker Wentworth, Senator Majority Leader Shirkey, our Senator Dale Zorn, and Representative Brown-Acali worked diligently on this. And I mean, for us, Lenawee County, City of Adrian, to get a $3.5 million earmark after 1 year, not even 1 year of working together, it just shows you what can happen with collaboration. So we're working closely with Greg to make sure that it's all connected through MDOT and through the city engineering department. But it's just a great example of collaboration, and we're not through. We're going to continue on. We've got, sometimes you have to be careful when you get one of these earmarks because you think it was pretty easy, but they're really not that easy. But we're going to be going after more of that money to make sure Lenawee County, the city of Adrian, and our other cities are well represented up at the state level. So just to give you a little update on that. As far as the EDA grant, we did get over $600,000 EDA grant coming out of the recent American Rescue Plan money. And it's for consultants to help your businesses that are suffering after the COVID crisis, whether it's loss of business, whether they need to do marketing, whatever channels they need to go through. And basically what it allows them to do for your businesses is we will hire them a consultant to come in and sit down with them and figure out what they need to do. It's not money to continue the program on from there. It's a consultant to come in and say, okay, we'll look at your business and we'll give you a direction of where to go. And then you have to go out and do that. And we're going to do that working through the local units of government. We're talking with Greg. Right now, Greg's got his plate full. And as you know, we've been doing a lot of the economic development for the city. And so we've agreed that we will screen them for him so he doesn't have to get all those businesses calling him. But then the local unit of government will screen them to see if they really qualify and make sure that they understand that, it has to be from suffering from COVID, and then it comes to us, and then we get them a consultant. So we just wanted to make you aware of that so that you can make your businesses aware of that. That are out there that are struggling right now from the effects of what's happened over the last 18 to 20 months. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Are there any rules on the size of the business?
No.
And do you have a one sheet or something we could pass around to our big email list?
Randy Yagala does, and I'll make sure he gets it to you.
Thank you.
Just a question with that, is a consultant, does it help with training, or, is it just how to grow our business, or just to help in general?
Training.
Well, turnover is probably high right now.
Turnover is what the issue.
We have training funds, Dave, through other avenues. Well, there's quite a few. Right now, the jobs program at the state of Michigan, were you aware of that to apply?
I think so. I just haven't had time to.
And then we work very closely with Michigan Works, and they have training dollars available. So there would not be training dollars available for that. They could come in and they would consult with you to tell you And you probably know better than they do the type of help, but I mean, that's the type of thing that they do for companies that are struggling with that. But it's just to identify the need, but not to fund the need.
Understood. Thanks.
But there are other training funds, so be sure if you're interested in that to get a hold of us. We can connect you with those. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll reiterate about, as far as the tunnel project, that should it's quite a spark, if you will. I don't know how to express it any other way, but there are some visions and big plans coming our way, and they're not yet fine-tuned enough to bring to the public. But I just want you to know that this DDA not only would be an active Main Street, but they're going to be, and I visualize, I'm hoping to be, I should put it that way, signatories on big projects. DDAs and other communities often bond to do things, to have big change take place, take out bonds, to be municipal bonds out there. They leverage their position, and the type of visions that are coming down are big and exciting and game changers. So I'm staying close to it as much as I can. And I just am excited. I want you to feel that energy. There is a lot of excitement going on, and we're going to be a very crucial part of that puzzle, this DDA is. All right, thank you. We can move to public comment at this time? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pardon me, if I may be added, reopen the approval of minutes. I wish to be added to the roll of the September 8th meeting. I was available virtually. However, I could not be heard. In fact, I called your office because I was absolutely mortified that I could not be heard. It's not a position I'm comfortable with, but nonetheless, I was available. I just couldn't be heard, but I was present for the role. And if the minutes could be adjusted, I don't know. I believe you might have to call a vote on that.
So who motioned and supported minutes? Do you have that?
Minutes was Joey and Holly.
All right, Lolly, so you amend your motion accordingly. You accept that, Drake?
Accepted.
All right.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Dusty said he wanted to turn that mic off, Margaret.
I knew it. I knew somebody was up to, if you can imagine my horror. What?
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Thank you.
Thank you for the interruption.
No problem. Public comment.
Oh, the clock didn't start yet, huh? All right, great. Don Taylor, 475 Meadowbrook Drive. Are delicious. God, we had great weather. Woo. And Dorn did it all. He did it. He's my meteorologist, right? So, we had great crowds. We had less artists than we wanted. We had about the same number we expected. They were great. And they sold their art. And that's what it's all about. Oh, I thought maybe I upset him somehow. We had great food trucks. I don't want to go any further than that.
Thank you, Don.
We did have some issues, but in the long run, I learned more about food trucks than I wanted to. And I'm not willing to give that job up, because I think we got them all lined up for next year, plus a couple of others. So they did really, really well. But I did learn a lot. And I know I gave Greg a little bit of a pain in the rear, but in the long run, it all worked out. And we appreciate your help there. Public art. We got great public art, but and this is not a criticism, just something we didn't get done this year. If we had had a brochure, we would have promoted the public art tour, because it's a self-guided tour. And in the past, we've had people come up and said, okay, the self-guided tour is in your brochure. Where's the self-guided material? And we didn't have that. So something to think about going forward, because people love to do that. And you just talk about a historic home tour. We had 25 or 30 people go on that tour, and we did publicize that through the radio. So So that brings me to volunteers. I mean, there is nothing more important than getting more volunteers. Dusty, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you can't imagine how many volunteers that we normally have that we did not have this year. The fact that we pulled our delicious off is, to me, amazing. We lost 20 students from Onset High School for all good reasons. We had one show up and the teacher stayed the whole day and into the night till 9 o'clock, I think. But it really impacted us. And so we're already discussing that for next year. We're already discussing what our plan will be, whether we're going to be 1 day or 2 days or a day and a half, and that decision hasn't been made yet. But I will say that volunteers are real key. And I just want to say one more thing about Phoenix Rising. Oh my. Who was at Phoenix Rising that night?
Theory.
Huh? Okay. Theory. Okay, it's Phoenix Rising. Okay. That's another project. Excuse me. See, we should have had that here, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Phoenix Theory. I was hauling trash doing some of that. We were cleaning up the streets. But when I'm all the way over at the farmer's market, dumping trash into the dumpster, I could hear them. Great music, great sound, a great choice. They really were quite an amazing group. To the chair, I sent you and David and our friend Justin at Visit Lenawee an email about, I really think we need to include Phoenix Rising in some of our local radio advertising, okay? And I'll do that for you guys, okay? And here's the cost for WLEN, and then we did 102.5 over in Hillsdale. And the chair's comment back was, Don, thank you for your generosity. I don't think I can send you guys a bill now. So I hope you appreciate the $500 and some we spent for that advertising, because it turned out to be about $1 per person that showed up, I think. We had a really great turnout, and we were happy to support in that cause. And one more thing about volunteers. This year, for our delicious, we probably saved $10,000 to $12,000 by people stepping up on our committee or outside of our committee and doing things that we normally have paid for. Web maintenance, web updates, advertising, Facebook, the whole thing. And I'm not going to name anybody, but those of us involved know who they are. And because of that, we were able to put on a great one-day event and have some money left over. So, and we got to bring, if we can't bring Phoenix Theory back, maybe we can get Phoenix Rising next year. Thank you.
Again, Don, thank you for your generosity. Any other public comment? How about other DDA matters at this point? Any other items that we want to bring forward to this group?
Mr. Chair, I just would like to bring back the conversation that you had last meeting in regards to drafting a letter to our legislation about the DAR district. I'm not sure how we approach that, but I think this is something that's very, very critical. I think if we want to circle back to Phoenix Theory concert and pulling off a DDA fundraising event, we need to figure out a way around this deterrent. Obviously, this has affected the Croswell, has affected our DDA, and has affected the Boys and Girls Club. We need to figure out what we need to do to pressure legislation to help open up this DAR district just a little more. We are kind of handcuffed at this time, and we need to figure out a way to move forward and starting putting pressure on legislation in regards to this. I did have a conversation with Brana during our delicious, and obviously she will not be running for her this next term. She does have somebody with her, and I did speak to her in regards to this. But I think some sort of formal letter from our organization up to Brana and her team, or whoever's going to be, even Senator Zorn. I mean, we need to figure out what we need to do moving forward. It's just not our community, our DAR district. It is other DAR districts too that are having issues with this.
David, I appreciate you bringing that back up. And for those who don't know, if we run an event and we sell alcohol at the event, then no Dara. No Dara, no Dara cups nobody can come out of a restaurant with the Dara. So that's why we went and just had the wash and were successful. The Phoenix Theory. Just having fun with you, John. But it's really problematic because you only have to go 11, 12 miles down south here, and Ohio has a completely different ordinance as it relates to this. And there is no restrictive nature to it. And we can use that as a point of reference as well. I'm going to guess we're not the only city that's dealing with this throughout the state. So if I could get some help in drafting that letter, David and whoever else could help me organize that. And I do think we need points of reference in there, comparisons, why this has become problematic.
Yeah. And just as, obviously, if we would have been able to do this as a fundraising organization, obviously this last event was a wash, but imagine if we could have. We would have made some good money. No offense to our downtown businesses, but they would have just made, if not more. And I think it would be even more of an attraction for our downtown community as well.
I'll make sure that stays on the agenda and we'll address it by next meeting for sure. Hopefully we'll have a letter ready to present to everyone that we can endorse. Thank you.
Jim, from your standpoint and experience in working with the state on matters like this, do you have a set of best practices that could guide us as we're approaching this discussion with them?
We'll be happy to work with Dusty. We thank you for that, Greg. We do have a number of connections up there. So we'll work with Dusty on that and drafting some of the information and getting it up.
Jim, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent.
Dusty, just so I understand, does this mean like if, for example, we had a beer tent, Dara cups would not be allowed in the vicinity of that beer tent?
And you have to take every restaurant.
No Dara cups at all.
They can't.
So we decided to not do a beer tent in order to allow Dara cups. Is that right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And that was because it was on the street, on public property. If there was an event adjacent on private property, then that would not have been in effect. So if that entertainment venue was somewhere that wasn't on the city's property, or would it, if it was anywhere in the Dara district?
In the Dara district.
Okay.
If somebody could get to us, and I'm not that familiar with the DAR program, but if somebody could get to us what it's covered under what legislation, we'll start to work on it.
All right.
Greg. Mr. Chair, if I could, and to that point, it's not completely clear to me that the legislation is the problem. It's the regulation that may be the problem. And in fact, the different divisions of the Liquor Control Commission don't agree on what the position on this issue should be. Right. And so the particular division that issues these special licenses has on their form a box that they've added that didn't used to be on their form that says, are you in a Dara district, not a Dara, but a social district? And if so, have you suspended that for the duration of the event? And that's their rule. But I don't know that there's language, and I haven't studied this, but I don't know for a fact that there's language in the statute that says that. And I think even the division of the LCC that particularly deals with social districts doesn't have the same view. And so it's sort of getting to the director of that agency, I think, that is the task at hand.
That's a good point, Greg, and I appreciate that. I think what we know is that every one of those departments have a member of the legislature that's in that department helping them or that consults with them. And so it may not be Senator Zorn, it may not be Representative Colley, but they have those connections up there and they get a hold of those senators or representatives that are dealing with the Liquor Control Commission. And that's how a lot of this gets done. We'll be happy to try to follow that through for it.
Thank you. I think Michelle had an insight too.
I was just going to mention, I talked to both of those divisions when all of this was going on, and I know that Dave did it as well, or at least to the Dara division or social district. And it is the special license division that has an issue with it. And it's not even just checking a box. They actually require a resolution from our city commission suspending the Dara activity in order to approve that license. So, you know, on top of getting, we would have to get permission from the city commission to even do that before we could even apply.
And it's not just, you know, our event to raise funds, but we've talked, you know, these outside events that the Cross will put on are just outstanding, and they had to adjust accordingly as well. And, you know, many of our organizations make the money on the bar. That's where they make a lot of the money. So you're taking that away from them in our downtown, which is not right. It's not where we need to be. So appreciate the help on that from both of you. So
Jim, while you're going after that, you know, all of us have had trouble with that special license group. You know, when we did our Taste of Lenawee, we submitted our special liquor license 4.5 months in front of the event. About less than a week in front of that, they pulled it up and said, well, you didn't have the stamp in the right spot you have to do. And, you know, and it was just, as Don knows that, they're a pain in the ass, and they shouldn't be that. They should be able to process their organization in a timely manner, and they don't. So somebody should kick them in the butt.
Tell us how you feel, Mark.
I will, after this meeting.
he's always had a problem with that.
When those things happen, if you can, you know, just get a hold of us and let us know, we'll be happy to
Right.
follow through on that.
Excellent. Thanks so much for the help. Appreciate it. Other DDA matters?
I had not made the September meeting, but I have submitted the insights to Dusty for, I believe, September and October. If I forgot September, I will amend that after this meeting. The social channels have been down like globally. The numbers have not reflected that yet, but they may for October in November when you get October's report. So I just wanted to make that known, but currently we still are in the green in terms of engagement and activity and user interaction. So I just forgot to say that.
Excellent. Other DDA matters? Board comments?
Mr. Chair, this Saturday, 9 to 12 at Trestle Park, there'll be a community cleanup of the park and the river. The city of Adrian has one of the nicest or the nicest park systems and trails and rivers in the country. And for the past 25 years, the city of Adrian has partnered with groups like Rotary and River Raisin Watershed to bring the community together to improve, do a little bit of work to improve the river situation. And as you know, there's many projects at the big level going on, but I think it's important that we as the DDA board and the community support at a local level these kind of projects. So please get the word out, send notes to your friends this Saturday, 9 to 12 behind the jail. Show up and bring a rake, and we just spent a few hours working to make our community look like a better place. It's a wonderful project. People appreciate feeling like they're a part of the community's effort. So please do spread the word. And at some point, I think this would be a wonderful project for the Main Street group to put their name on and adopt it as a project for the future.
And Mark, you picked Sienna Heights Homecoming, so some of us are a little busy that day, but just from the mayor, if you would like a donation for like donuts or anything like that, get a hold of me.
You're on. Thank you.
I was going to say the same thing, Madam Mayor. But come to homecoming as well.
Other board member comments? I appreciate all of you so much. So I entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Dave,
Second.
second by the mayor. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same.
And happy birthday, Chair Steele.
Happy birthday.
Getting old. Getting old.
Happy birthday, Dusty.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.